Okay, everybody, thank you so much for joining us in the Zoom room and on the live feed on Facebook. Welcome to another exciting episode of Nature Talks. It's episode 5. My name is Marguerite. I am one of the directors of Fellowship of the Trees CIC. We're a grassroots non-profit organisation with our mission at heart to reconnect people back to the land, to their communities and to each other and to their own hearts. Nature Talks as a series is platforming inspiring speakers who we feel are bringing a pioneering visionary voice for our Mother Earth at these times. And we have been going through tumultuous, I don't think that's the right word. Tumultuous, yeah. Tumultuous times as a collective. And we as the Fellowship of the Trees very much believe that sometimes our answer is just to go back to our roots and to reconnect with the land to find our solutions. And this is the reason why we're doing these nature talks. Just so everyone knows in the Zoom room and on the live feed that there's going to be an opportunity at the end of the talk to ask Ben some questions. So please feel free to begin posting those questions in the comments if you feel something that you very much would like to ask. So yeah, just to introduce Ben, or Spicy Ben, as Nancy referred to him earlier on social media, which I really like. Ben Spice is actually a friend of mine. I actually saw him last weekend at a friend's birthday party. I was actually dressed as a mushroom during our last interaction. I did feel like wearing that mushroom outfit again for tonight's talk, but I thought it'd be a little bit too much. But yeah, Ben is a dear friend and also well known amongst the circles that I roll in as very much being the mushroom guy, because he just shows such a profound font of knowledge about mushrooms in all of their aspects and all of their expressions and representations, and he's able to offer so much exquisite knowledge to people, and he's always willing to talk about it to everyone. It's just an ever-flowing wellspring of fungi knowledge. And he's also personally supported the Fellowship of the Trees before in our winter solstice tree planting event at Coed Hills, where he was doing the catering, and literally everyone was blown away by the quality of the catering, which actually included wild foraged food and mushrooms that were harvested by Ben and brought to the event. So yeah, another time I saw Ben recently actually was at a festival, and he was running a stall selling some of his products, and I actually me and my partner actually tried to ask him at that time about mushrooms, but I think Ben at that time was an absolute mushroom overload from having to just speak about it all day. So now I get the more intimate opportunity to have this discussion, which I feel is such an important discussion to have at this time. Movies like Fantastic Fungi have reached new heights on Netflix, and there's an ever-flowing, ever-evolving conversation about mushrooms and their therapeutic use. So I feel it's a really relevant conversation to have. So I just really want to welcome you, Ben. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Very good to be here. I hope I can do the fungal kingdom justice.
Oh, I'm sure you will. So yeah, just to sort of dive in, really, I'm really interested in knowing, like, where did your journey begin with your relationship with fungi and your work with them?
Yeah, this is a this is one that I could take up probably the whole time with. So I'll try and be succinct. But I think I've always had a deep love of nature, which came from my mother, who, we foraged and grew a lot of our own food, and so I think I've been lucky enough to have a deep connection with nature from a very young age, and collected food and fermented food, and done many, grew our own food, and so I think I remember, probably like many kids, being fascinated by these weird little organisms that were quite unlike anything else, and I probably spent a lot of my time destroying them actually when I was a kid, pulling them apart, and actually that actually helped, that kick-started, that boosted my learning journey with them, because as soon as I really became interested in them and a bit obsessive about them, and done the most reading on them, I realized that I'd encountered a lot of these mushrooms before in my childhood, and I was familiar with the textures and the smells and the habitats and everything else. So it goes very, very deep for me. The beginning of the journey with mushrooms. I mean, it kind of very mycelial in that sense, that it kind of it works its way into every aspect of my life. I'm a chef, and so my first experience with wild mushrooms would have been working in kitchens at the age of 16, when foragers brought all of these fantastic wild ingredients to the door of the kitchen, and I got to taste these delicious fruiting bodies, and so I realized how tasty they were and diverse, or got a little taste of how diverse they could be. That was really just the tip of the iceberg. But so yeah, I started to forage gradually from that time with the ones that I'd worked out. And yeah, apart from cooking, I have a very keen interest in nutrition and health, which was greatly accelerated with my mum's diagnosis. My mum was diagnosed with cancer when I was 16, and from that moment, I wanted to save my mum's life. I wanted to find something that was gonna help her, and so yeah, I became much more dedicated to understanding nutrition, especially, but all the aspects of health, anything that could potentially prevent my mum from dying of cancer, and so yes, mushrooms are one of the best answers we have to cancer, to autoimmune diseases, and so yeah, before I'd even foraged, I became aware of turkey tail mushrooms, and then realized that I could go and forage them, and I made medicine for my mum. But yeah, there's multiple kind of different routes I could go with that answer, really. I think probably at the age of sort of 15, I found myself wanting to explore the magic mushroom fields local to me in Cornwall, and I had some very powerful, some scary but very powerful experiences on magic mushrooms, which were obviously taken out of any kind of ceremonial or any kind of context, really. It was just a teenager trying to get high. And I remember having a conversation with my friend after our first big dose, and just saying there's something in there that we just can't explain. There's something so profound that we've just experienced that we can't really explain, and that certainly opened a big door for how powerful they could be, which yeah, I later explored further and found a bit more context to explore that psychedelic realm. So they touch on everything that I hold dear, the Venn diagram of everything that I love: nature, people, medicine, nutrition, health, balance, like mystery, all of these things that I love. Mushrooms are right in the middle. Food, they sit right there in the middle, as they do in nature. They sit there right in the middle, and yeah, they're terrific balances, and yeah, I think that's probably maybe enough of an answer. I've got so much more to talk about.
Oh, Ben, that's just a beautiful answer. Thank you so much for sharing. I mean, it's just so incredible to understand how that journey began, and that fascination, and thank you so much for sharing about your experience of researching for a way to support your mum while she was going through her cancer journey. I think actually we've got a very special photo to share. I don't know, Taliesin, would you like to share this photo to show the viewers?
Yeah.
So I think you're about to see, is this the hen of the woods?
This is you very much looking like a happy foraging caveman.
Yeah, I never look happier than when I kind of look a little bit serious there, but normally I've got a big smile on my face if I've got a hen there. But yeah, they call it the dancing mushroom because when you find them, you dance. Maitake is Japanese for dancing mushroom, and yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
hen of the
again, I
woods
could
is
talk
maitake.
about that mushroom for an hour. So.
I didn't realize hen of the woods was maitake.
Yeah, Graphola
Oh, wow.
frondosa. This is why we need to learn Latin names because you know everything has so many general names. It's really nice to be able to know exactly what we're talking about. That's why we use the binomial name, you know, Graphola frondosa. Yeah, because it's often confused with chicken of the woods, and hen of the woods is a different mushroom. They're related, but yeah, but it's incredible. So this mushroom on my journey of discovery of what might help with my mum's condition. I found myself reading about maitake, which has probably the highest amount of different polysaccharides, beta glucans, and these complex sugars, which are incredibly good immunomodulators. You know, which basically means that they're not just going to boost your immune system, but they're going to balance your immune systems, which is really important with cancers, but all autoimmune diseases, to not overexcite the immune system and waste energy and blood cells and resources of the body as well. So you know they're fantastic balances. But yeah, this particular mushroom was found. That photo is probably close. That must be about 8 years old. And that was the first hen of the woods that I ever found. And it was yeah, as I say, I was researching for my mum what other mushrooms might be useful after you know finding turkey tail initially, and then I came across this one and was very excited to try and find it. Not a lot of people were widely cultivating it at the time. It's much easier to cultivate it now. There's a lot more work been done on the cultivation of that particular mushroom right now. So you can actually buy that one. You see it in the supermarket sometimes now. But yes, this has happened to me a number of times. But the finding of this mushroom was preceded by a dream. So I dreamt that I'd found this mushroom. And then the next day I went for a walk with my mum and my family. It's the first time my mum had come foraging with me, actually. And that mushroom presented itself to us. So that was a very happy day. And yeah, but I could go on about that mushroom, and I'm going to resist the urge.
Well, you know, I mean, that's an absolutely incredible story, especially that I know you, Ben, and you know, you spoke a little bit about using the Latin names for the different species that you can find, and I know that you kind of consider yourself extremely left-brained in terms of the research and the you know, working scientifically. But very much you're talking about a shamanic experience where something is entering the dream realm, the other worlds, and then able to interact with us on a physical level. So yeah, that's an incredible story. I would be interested to know actually. Like me myself, I'm a practicing rose priestess, which incorporates a lot of meanings, but it's also based on my deep relationship with the rose flower. Which I consider to have a spirit, and a lot of people, well, certainly my belief and many people's beliefs are that plants have spirits, that are separate entity personalities that we can interact with and learn from. So, I mean, would you say, you know, that mushrooms also have the same spirit?
They certainly have their own spirit, I would say, for sure. And you know that's something that really, you know, as you said that I'm I'm quite left-brained. I was brought up in a atheist or agnostic family. Certainly my mum would describe herself as an agnostic. She had a spiritual side to herself, but she was generally, you know, very, very, very pragmatic, and yeah, that's sort of where I've come from with it. And the mushrooms have really helped to boost the other side of my thinking, and yeah, but at the same time, I think it's really important to take the intellect along for the ride with us. You know, I think the spirituality without the intellect is an impoverished spirituality. Yeah, we just need to have it in its right place. You know, yeah, the mushrooms have been very good for helping me out with that one, though.
Yeah. Whereas, as you said,
yeah.
bringing balance to your life and balance to the ecosystem, you know, that's really, really
absolutely
incredible.
Absolutely, and they speak to me, you know. I think I don't hear voices, but they do speak to me, you know, and it's taken me a while to realize that the way in which they speak to me. But yeah, some you know, on many occasions this a similar thing has happened to me. You know, the first time I found some of my really most, it's hard to say, I don't like saying important, because actually they're all just as important. I think we just maybe understand the importance of some more than others, you know. Certainly every time we investigate a fungi, we find importance. Yes, but the first time I found a reishi, the first time I found morels, yeah, the hen of the woods, I'm sure others, cordyceps, some of these very special sort of mushrooms that people may have heard of. The first time I find them, it's often preceded by a dream, which is eerily sort of accurate for the way in which they're found as well. So yeah, there seems to be something in that.
Thank you so much, Ben. Yes, it's already fascinating fungi. But yeah, I was interested, you know, because I asked you how would you like to name this talk, because we asked our speakers what they'd like to call it, and you know, the name Ancient Fungal Ancestors, Healers and Teachers is so incredibly potent and interesting. So I would like to know why you chose that name.
Right. So this is a big one that that I would like to get into a bit. This is worthy of a little bit of time, I think.
Got plenty of time.
So yeah, the name, what do we say? Ancient Fungal Ancestors, Healers and Teachers. So yeah, there are our ancient ancestors. We are united with fungi in the kingdom, and I like to use the word kingdom. I don't see a king sitting above this particular domain. You know, I think if the mushrooms teach us anything, that its nature is non-hierarchical, and everything has its place. But yeah, they are the pioneers of land. You know, the first larval rock formations that bubbled up maybe 500 million years ago, were first populated by fungi, by Tortotubus, which produced oxalic acid, and they use this enzyme to break down these first rock formations, the first land masses on our planet, and they turned that into food, which they made their bodies out of. And then as their bodies died, we had the first soil, and then the fungi have been maintaining that soil ever since. And so, you know, they laid the foundation for plants to come onto land. You know, the first liverworts, you know, they had no way of rooting into the rock until there was a thin layer at least of soil produced by the fungi. And so yeah, it's thanks to the fungi that we have this beautiful living soil, which provides us all of the life on land that we know, and we there's important lessons in there to help us to look after it. If we humble ourselves and look after the fungi, then they will actually look after the soil for us. But yeah, if we just need to humble ourselves and recognize that the answers are already there in nature. And these organisms have been supporting life on land since that time. 420 million years ago, there was a giant fungi, which might well have been a symbiosis. It might have well have been a lichen, but it was either a lichen or a fungi, some kind of lichen or a fungi. But they stood 8 to 10 meters tall. They were the largest living things on land up until that point. Before that, there was just these almost two-dimensional liverworts and fungi. So every catastrophe that has hit the planet since then, fungi have been dealing with, and they've encountered far worse cataclysms than the Anthropocene, far than the era that we are heralding now with the great the effect that us humans are having on the planet. So they will have no problem in dealing with whatever we have to throw at them, as will be evidenced in examples like glyphosate, Agent Orange. So far the best organisms at remediating these toxins that we're putting into the environment are actually psilocybes. So the magic mushroom family, they can facilitate a meeting with the divine, and they can also deal with the worst toxins that human beings have ever come up with. Even in the Chernobyl disaster, 1986, so the year of my birth. In that time, there was a
oh dear. Ben, are you still with us? Wow. Taliesin, is his screen fixed for everyone or just for
no, that's universal.
Which was
Ben, you're Ben, you've frozen a bit. Your voice is not very audible at the moment. If you could, you might have already, just try quitting any other applications or anything that you're opening that isn't Zoom, and hopefully it will sort that out. If this problem persists, then maybe try turning off your video on and on, off and on. If you can hear me, Ben. Sorry about this, audience.
Yeah, sorry about this, everyone. Just when he was like in the in the most amazing sharing. Rolled back eyes.
I'm just going to give him a call a second. Hang on.
Okay. Sorry about this, everyone.
Oh, he's back. Ben, you seem fine now.
Ben? Oh, yay.
If you just unmute yourself, Ben, at the bottom left.
Here's
There
Ben.
microphone. There we go.
Here's Ben coming back to life,
Cool.
just like the mushrooms.
Sorry, guys.
No, that's okay. You're going to have to start that whole thing again from your birthday event, if that's okay.
From where was I?
1986. Yeah, go back from there.
Yeah, 1986, the Chernobyl meltdown. So there was a human pathogenic fungi, which a lot of people, unfortunately, still, even mycologists, are only actually think about fungi, which is one of the reasons why we need to get the message of the fungi out there, because a lot of even mycologists. I've met a mycologist that was a pathogen expert, and so some people, some believe that, you know, only think about fungi through the lens of pathogen, thinking that they're only something which is, you know, something that's going to, you know, destroy a tree or, you know, give you athlete's foot. You know, like, you know, it's really quite sad that this is what they reduce to. But one of these pathogenic fungi that was probably living on to the skin of and it's probably only pathogenic if it's overexpressed, if it's out of balance. Maybe you're scrubbing too much and you don't allow enough microorganisms to, you know, to balance out the biosphere of your skin. But yes, there was a human pathogenic fungi that was been found in Chernobyl, which within the last 35 years, so it would have been in less time that even, has gone from digesting human beings, digesting skin, to processing radiation in a similar way to plants photosynthesizing. So it can actually get its energy from the radiation left fallout at Chernobyl. So, you know, they're so ancient that they have been perfecting this cooperative way of living on the planet, this way of recycling and balancing the planet for so long, that they have genetics to call upon. They have codes to call upon to unlock chemical bonds that you know, from plastic, oil, you know, that basically can solve all of the problems that we have. You know, there's one thing that I often say in my mushroom talks when I'm walking with people is that, you know, give me a problem and I'll tell you how mushrooms can help. Because I'm yet to come across a problem that they can't at least help with, and probably have been helping. Probably already are helping with and have been for you know, before our species existed. Yeah, so ancient ancestors. So yeah, I think I've explained that we come from fungi. You know, fungi. Plants split away from fungi before Animalia did, and then Animalia branched off of fungi, but we were united in Epistoconta. So they are our ancestors, and they have our interests and all of life on Earth's interests at heart. You know, they want to eat us eventually. You know, when we die and go back to the ground, you know, like they're farming us. You know, but while we're alive, they want us to have a laugh. You know, like the mushrooms have communicated this message to myself and other people that I know as well. And I think I've even heard McKenna talk about that Terence McKenna, that is, that you know, that they the best thing that human beings do is to laugh. And so, you know, I think they appreciate our sense of humor. But yeah, we're their children. We call them the children, you know, Maria, Sabina. But you know, we are their children, and they love us. They love us a lot. There is so much. There's so much I can say about that. I mean, it's I talked about Terence McKenna. Before I move on too much, just make sure I've not missed anything on that. Yeah, I talked about Terence McKenna. He's a massive hero of mine. Certainly gets a lot of things wrong, but one thing I think he got really right, and a massive gift that he gave us was his hypothesis, the stoned ape hypothesis.
I didn't realise
which
Terence
basically
McKenna.
states, yeah, so that was McKenna. I think the kind of the idea, you know, he formulated from other people's ideas and other, you know, other research that's out there. But you know, we know that we you know, fairly certain that we evolved from apes, and our ape ancestors were living in the trees. And the jungles in Africa, we know that they reduced, that there was a climate change going on millions of years ago that was reducing the jungles of Africa. And so as these jungles that we were living in the trees, as they were being reduced, some of us would have been forced to come down from the trees, and where we would have encountered herbivores, and we would have followed the herbivores to find water, to find food sources. We would have been hunting them. And so on these paths where we were hunting these and following these herbivores, we would have encountered their feces. And it's evident that we would have investigated these cow pats and for food. There would have been bugs in there that we would have eaten, and we were very, very experimental species when it comes to our diet. And some of us undoubtedly would have experimented with eating some of the mushrooms that emerged from these cow pats, from these herbivores' feces. And the one of the mushrooms that really likes to grow from these feces is the psilocybe family, which have this ability to, well, potentially connect us with the divine, connect us with ourselves, connect us with the rest of nature, give us tremendous insight. And, but actually at smaller doses. So yeah, the sort of theory sort of goes is that at smaller doses, it improves your visual acuity. So even if you ate one of these mushrooms, your vision will become greatly improved. So your ability to spot predators and prey on the horizon would have been increased.
Oh,
wow. That initially is giving you a great survival, a boost to your survival. The people that were, or the apes, the ancestors that were eating these mushrooms would have been surviving in greater numbers just from that, just from the enhanced visual acuity. But it enhances all of our senses, and so we would have heard prey, we would have heard predators. It would have increased bonding. We would have got on with each other better. We would have understood each other better. We would have had greater connection between the, not just the hemispheres of the brain, but there's just, we now know with the latest psychedelic research that it really lights up the brain. It creates connections that otherwise would not be there. It's somewhat akin to like a synesthesia, so the merging of senses. So, the birth of language, this idea of a small mouth noise having a meaning in the real world, is a kind of synesthesia, and that leap to go from, grunting or howling to having having detailed language is quite likely to have been accelerated by this encounter with psilocybin. I believe that this encounter with magic mushrooms, with psilocybin mushrooms, are what made us human beings. Yeah, they've been used to catalyze thought, so to catalyze creative thought. So anything from Carrie Mullis and to Francis Crick discovering the DNA helix, was on acid. There was studies by Dr. James Fadiman in the 1950s where he was experimenting with giving LSD, which has similar effects to engineers, and the advanced the advanced capacity for these engineers to come up with ideas whilst on these psychedelics, is greatly enhanced. And so for me, there's no better idea of like how we could have, for me, it's the conventional idea that we started cooking fish or we started cooking meat, doesn't really explain that, the greatest And it's the most rapid expansion of a major organ in the fossil record. You know, the idea that happened because we started eating cooked meat, I think is not enough. You know, but we can see that, you know, the invention of the wheel, music, art, you know, that it would have coincided with our encounter with psilocybin mushrooms. So you can't understate the you know, tremendous effect that it's had on our species. You know, I also believe, you know, it would have been the beginning of spirituality. You know.
There's biblical references as well, isn't there?
Exactly, exactly. Well, yeah, one of the there's a quote actually I wrote down, which is in the Bible, and you know, it comes from Genesis, and you know, I think the fruit, the you know, what we often think of as being the apple of the, you know, of the tree of life, is I think actually was most likely it was a psilocybin mushroom. You know, the quote from Genesis is, if they eat of the fruit of the tree of life, they will become as we are. You know, and that's Yahweh. That's quite a quote of Yahweh from the Bible. So yeah, I you know, I think it's you know, there's so much evidence piling up now, you know, from ergot being found in which is a type of fungus which grows on rye grain, and but many other grains as well, where lysergic acid comes from. LSD is derived from ergot. You know, but that's been found in ceramics from ancient Greece, you know, where they have the Eleusinian Mysteries, which was a festival where all Greeks were encouraged to go to at least once in their life, where the descriptions of this brew that they took is you know, it was a psychedelic. You know, the descriptions of it, you know, are absolutely akin to psychedelic trips. So you know, right at the start of humanity, of civilization, and you know, are these fungi, you know, and these psychedelics. Yeah, so yeah, you know, but there's a book, the Mushroom of the Cross by John P. Allegro, who argues, he was an Aramaic scholar, and he argues that the early Christians were a mushroom cult, and they used, you know, Jesus was code for the mushroom. So, you know, there's, you know, I don't need to absolutely believe in any one of these, but when you start to take it all into context, then the evidence seems to be fairly overwhelming that you know, we don't exist as human beings without our symbiosis with mushrooms. I mean, the word symbiosis wouldn't even exist without fungi, without lichen. You know, it was first used to describe lichen. Yeah, I feel like I'm trying to say so much, because like I really want to excite everybody, all of you, about the fungi, you know, and you know, I think allying with the fungi couldn't come at a more important time for us. You know, they can help us with so much. So yeah, forgive me if I'm like going off in.
No, it's perfect. You know, it's like absolutely incredible to just think that mushrooms and fungi were there at the absolute dawn of time and have played such an incredible role in life and death and evolution. And yeah, it is an important conversation to have at this time, very relevant, because people are going through such a difficult time at the moment. As a collective, we have done, you know, I mean, life's never been easy, but you know, the last few years have been extremely difficult for us, with the lockdown, with the COVID outbreak, and yeah, and essentially, you know, it's really important for us to know. So I mean, like you say, that there's ways that they could be helping us now. I mean, what comes to mind when I ask you that question? Like, what ways can they help us now in this current situation?
Wow. We could do a day on that. I mean, we could do a week on that.
Yeah.
I mean, remediating environments, providing food, providing micro materials. It's you know, relieving depression, connecting ourselves with with nature. Medicine. Already conventional medicine. So many conventional medicines already come from fungi. It's just it's incredibly extensive. Excuse me. The just the conventional medicines that are derived from fungi. Everyone knows penicillin, but statins, an absolute multitude of different things have already been used. Cyclosporin, for stopping the heart, whilst doing surgery. A lot of like cleaning products and eco cleaning products derived from mushrooms. We could be producing high protein meat alternatives from fungi, that could be produced in giant vats in a similar way. We grow yeasts, or we brew, so that you can literally turn a giant fermentation chamber, a giant water culture into a meat product, which would actually be higher in nutritional value than meat. And
wow.
Yeah,
I mean, that's that really hits a mark with me at the moment, because many people argue that veganism is a solution to the climate crisis, which we're all faced with at the moment. And with COP26, I hope it's called COP26 rather than COP26 happening at the moment. I mean, a lot of people are arguing that the descent of agricultural farming and using land and deforestation. It's incredible to think that fungi can even provide a solution to the proteins that we need for to replace meat products.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and supporting the soils that we already grow our vegetables from. If we were to just if farmers were to just have the most basic understanding of microbes, and one of the things actually I feel driven to say is actually it's not just the fungi that I'd like to really like sing the praises of, but microbes in general. They're the unsung heroes. Without them we just wouldn't be here. But yeah, so if farmers and agriculturists, were to just have the most basic understanding of fungi, we would stop ploughing lands. You're reducing the amount of or at least we'd drastically reduce the amount of ploughing we do, and we'd start tilting at a much we wouldn't be ploughing as deep. We would be tilting at a much thinner layer of the soil. Because breaking up this network, you've got this network of mycorrhizal fungi in the soil, and they stitch the soil together. They increase its water capacity drastically, so it's retaining nutrients and water, and not only just retaining water, but actually stopping water from being concentrated in areas where it's not needed. So they're taking the water and the nutrients to places to where they're needed. Without this network in the soil, you're really handicapping yourself, and to the point where it will mean the extinction of our species and other large animals, and the mushrooms will be here still, and life will revive itself. The fungi will bring the planet back. The life on the planet will be fine, and we might not, but yeah, these mycorrhizal species. I while I've mentioned it, I might as well talk a little bit about these some of these soil-dwelling mycorrhizal species. There's a fascinating group called the Glomeromycota, which live in which they form the most symbiosis with herbaceous plants. So rather than these mycorrhizal relationships with trees, but with the kind of plants that we consume in our diet more often. So they're incredibly important. But the one of the sort of interesting lessons that they bring is when I started learning about them, their cells are hundreds of times the size of other fungal cells, and the reason that it is because they've got this huge nucleus, which has incredible diverse, it has an incredible diverse genome. So like they can call upon genetics that have been around for, you know, forever, been around since fungi have, and you know, so they defy taxonomy, they defy classification. And it's one of the most beautiful things that they can teach us, the fungi, which is actually that, you know, you can't box them in, you cannot classify them. You know, they morph into such a multitude of different shapes that you've got no way of really recognizing them. And you know, we can't split apart these glomeromycota, and actually we can't honestly split apart any of these other fungi because they're just far too complex, and that should humble us. That should humble us and put us back into a much more fitting position of humility and the position of awe of nature and of what she can do, of what Mother Nature can do. You know. So yeah, for me that's a really beautiful lesson that comes from, and you know, within it, you know, that they've kind of taught us, you know, another lesson about, you know, what we always call the tree of life. You know, as everything branches from the original proto-organism, you know, that we all descend from. As everything branches from that, it actually comes back. It doesn't just branch off like a tree and it actually, like the branches or the hyphae, you know, like they actually come back, and they you know, so through this thing called horizontal gene sharing. So wow. Mushrooms are incredibly good at horizontal gene sharing because they have this amazing ability, you know, which they share with things like the water bear, you know, the tardigrade, which some people might have heard of. They share this ability to be completely desiccated, completely dried out, and then upon rehydration they become reanimated and come back to life, you know, which makes them incredibly good survivors. But it also gives them this ability to draw new genetic information into their cells as they rehydrate, so they can have, if there could be you know, in the soup within the soil, there's some genetic information from another completely, you know, from a very, very, very distantly, I was going to say completely unrelated, but actually that's no such thing. It's all related, you know, from a very distantly related organism, and they can draw that genetic, you know, those genes into their own genome and make use of them, which is what evidenced in some of the two most poisonous families of mushrooms, the Gallerina and the Amanita. Yeah, so Amanita phalloides and you know, the destroying angel, the death cap, they have amatoxins in them, which will stop you from reproducing your liver, cause quite a painful death. But those toxins are shared with the Gallerina family, and those species are not related. You know, those toxins came about after those fungi had split apart, and so they've shared those genetics through horizontal gene sharing. And so again, we have a new idea of the way life works, because it's not a tree of life, it's a mycelium of life. You know, this network pattern, you know, which we can see in the neuron connections in our brain. You know, it's the same it's the same pattern that we see in the internet, same pattern we see when we take a greater perspective of our universe and see the way that the universe is connected. It follows this mycelial pattern, you know, which is what's inspired, you know, Paul Stamets being on Star Trek and, you know, using mycelium to traverse the you know, outer space. So yeah.
Even as you're talking, I can literally feel like it's happening to my brain right now. Like the networks are firing, and yeah, just.
And that's all what they do when you take them, Marguerite. You know, like when you take these psilocybes, there is this much more communication happening between the brain, you know, between the cells of the brain, you know, between the neurons.
So yeah, let's talk quickly about psilocybin, because obviously psilocybin is becoming, I mean, we've spoken a lot about psilocybin, obviously, even as
it's a very special one, you know. It's, we can't ignore it, you know. Like, there's all other mushrooms are magic, but yeah, you can't get away from the
psilocybin.
Yeah.
So I mean, I was amazed to read that apparently Boris Johnson is open to the conversation about whether psilocybin can be used for therapeutic potential, and is open to considering the research that would which would advocate for its legalization for therapeutic use. I mean, I think that is, you know, a time to be alive, to be quite honest. But you know, you've spoken about psilocybin that you've found and foraged, and you know, you've also spoken about mushrooms that can also be really poisonous and toxic, you know, death cap, etc. So for people who are listening to this conversation and are interested about following their own personal stoned ape theory, what would you say is the best resources for people to look? I mean, you've got such an extensive knowledge. I mean, where do people begin to make sure they're informed when they're looking, or when they're foraging themselves?
So specifically, information on how they identify mushrooms, or are we on?
Well, yeah, just so, because you know, I'm just aware that people are interested and it's so fascinating, but you know, obviously you do need to be careful. So I mean, is there any advisory tips? And also, in the same breath, you know, if people are interested in using psilocybin themselves for therapeutic use, I mean, is there any safety guidelines that you can offer?
Yeah, I mean, be patient with both. In answer to both of that, you know, have some patience, have some humility. Don't rush into it. The more I'll talk about the psilocybin. So, you know, the more you bring to any psychedelic experience, you know, again, this is something, a thing from McKenna, you know, said you shouldn't take mushrooms until you've read Jung, you know, like we should have some, and it doesn't have to be Jung, you know, we should have some basis in I mean, I really think that many things can help, you know, like whatever your way of understanding the world is, you know, really throw yourself into that. It really helps to speak to people that you trust, to find out other people's experiences, to yeah, find people that have been working with any of these psychedelics, of these plant teachers, you know, and be prepared for challenges, you know. Yeah, it might not always be easy, but it will always be worth it. It will always be in my experience, will always bring something worthwhile, incredibly valuable, incredibly beautiful.
A lot of people use the term set and setting that I've heard before.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you know, ensuring that when you're going out and foraging psilocybin based mushrooms, and you're interested in having an experience, you know, definitely I've heard that people say that it's a prerequisite to ensure that you're in a safe place, that you've got potentially someone on hand to look after you, maybe, because you mentioned Jung, and you said, you know, read Carl Jung. So I suppose you're talking about having some sort of prior understanding of self-inquiry and analyzing one's own self and being and psyche.
Maybe go and get some psychotherapy first, you know. I don't want to pretend to know exactly how people should prepare, but prepare by gaining some knowledge in understanding the mind, understanding yourself, you know. Try meditation, you know. Yeah, there's many ways of doing that, isn't there? But yeah, like set and setting, so that means the place that you're doing it, you know, the sounds that you're going to hear. You're going to become incredibly sensitive, so you know, you need to make sure that the sense, the sensory inputs that you're taking in are ones that are gonna be helpful in reformatting your brain and your approach to things. It's a bit like being a newborn baby, and you're going to be reprogrammed by the first things you see. So you want those experiences around you to be positive ones. I can see how they could be very damaging, these psychedelic experiences, if you get that wrong. Just like being born into an environment which is violent, ruthless, dangerous, is gonna get you into, program your brain to be responding to that kind of environment, which will be signaled by that sort of stimulus. So yeah, I mean, the right music, seriously, the right people, the right amount of comfort and everything around you, but yeah, don't take it lightly. Really don't take it lightly. And remember, the setting is your own mind as well, so anything that you've done to get yourself in a peaceful and balanced state of mind prior to, in the build up, and especially in the build up to doing any psychedelic again, is incredibly important. The time before and the time just after, can't be undervalued. Take walks in nature, have some quiet time, eat good food, stay away from social media and technology and the news, and
I guess that's why, potentially it is absolutely so important that psilocybin assisted therapy becomes a thing that is offered on a mainstream through NHS or through other sort of more official means, just that kind of that basically that there could be a trained therapist to support or guide you through the process, ultimately until that moment happens, until we realize realize a time where that's legal and that's accepted, that so important that that you're getting the right support and definitely doing your research before and afterwards. I mean, when it comes to sort of mushroom identification, I wonder how many photos you get on a day-to-day basis, Ben, through your WhatsApp saying
it goes up in the autumn for sure. Yeah. There's quite a few coming through at the moment. But now I'm always happy to receive more photos. If I don't have the time to respond, I can also add people into there's some brilliant forums online that were very helpful for identifying. Just take all the answers with a pinch of salt until you become a bit more familiar, and always do your own research, and don't consume anything until you're 100% sure of what it is. Is the place to start with that.
Someone's just put something really interested in the comments, actually, in the Zoom room, saying NHS could potentially be the worst possible setting, as with most other mental health support, so be careful what you wish for. Thank you so much for that.
Essentially, all I want that to do is to legitimize it. I completely agree that the hospitals they're not designed for health. They kind of assume that we're kind of a mechanism which, you feed us and water us and give us the right temperature and we'll survive. And and it's all about these metrics, and we don't really consider ourselves as a whole organism which needs, you can't even rest properly in a hospital. I quite agree, but what it needs is it needs to be legitimized, and then there'll be room for other practitioners, I hope, to be working with them, and there will be evidence pile up, and we'll learn how to do it better. I think since we've stopped taking these, so obviously we going back to our earlier part of our conversation, these made us human. I believe these psilocybes, while we're still on this beautiful subject of the psilocybes, I believe they made us human, but then we've also drifted away from using them for 10,000 plus years as on the whole. There's been groups of people that have maintained that connection. Thank God, thank the universe, thank the mushrooms, you know, whoever you want to thank, but yeah, I'm just very grateful that these people are still practicing with this, because you know, it's just, yeah, it's just incredibly important for us to be able to remember our humanity, remember our connection to the planet and the universe, you know, like, so yeah, you know, the effect that could have with many of us coming back to these beautiful plant teachers, you know, it will mean a complete change of the healthcare system. You know, like, we can reimagine the whole thing once we're using these mushrooms to dream up a new existence. You know, so you know, it just needs to happen, and you know, just be patient. You know, like, I think, yeah, it's yeah, be patient, keep your sense of humor. and yeah, just have faith in the mushrooms. You know, they'll bring us back to ourselves. You know, and I think, you know, we have the potential to be real custodians of the planet. And if we can, you know, we've replaced these mushrooms. You know, every culture has a central drug of choice. You know, and almost every animal we look at as well likes to get high, likes to alter its consciousness. And you know, of course, we're no different. You know, being one of the most intelligent species on the planet, you know, we like to alter our consciousness. And unfortunately, for the last sort of 10,000 years, predominantly on the planet, the central drug of choice has been alcohol. And you know, that they couldn't, you know, that's, as far as I, you know, that is our fall from grace. You know, that is our, you know, that is us leaving the Garden of Eden. You know, and you know, if we can put these mushrooms and these other plant teachers back in the place at the center of our culture, then you know, we you know, we will be living in a kind of Eden again. You know, it's possible. You know, and yeah, possibly easier than we think. You know, yeah, just need to humble ourselves, I think, and
Yeah. Why do you feel like it?
yeah.
You know, why do you feel like it's been so overlooked? The you know, the fungal kingdom. I mean,
So I got a number of answers to this one as well, and it probably is all of them. It's you know, they're hidden for a start. You know, they produce these fruiting bodies that just pop up and then deliquesce, just melt back into the soil or the earth, the moss, within a very short period of time. So they're hidden from us most of the time. They live in the darkness, extracting gold from the depths of the darkness and turning it back into life. You know, turning death back into life. And so yeah, they're hidden from much of the time. They're very hard for us to understand until the invention of the microscope. We've got no idea about them. You know, so you know, for a start, they're harder for us to understand. The other thing is that, you know, we know that that in ancient Egypt, for instance, they even the touching of mushrooms was banned by anybody but the pharaoh. You know, the pharaoh and his right-hand man, or what his special people, were the only people that were allowed to touch fungi. You know, and so the propaganda is deep. You know, it goes back a long way. That you know, that essentially that this control of them. That you know, that essentially that, you know, the authorities are sort of, you know, they don't want you to have your own connection with nature, with existence, with the divine, whatever you want to call it. You know, they want to say no, we've got the direct line to God, and we'll let you know what he's got to say. Don't worry. You know, like, you know, don't try picking up the phone yourself. You know, it's dangerous. You know, and that's what these mushrooms facilitate. You know, so yeah,
I heard recently about in Mesoamerican Aztec ancient times that psilocybin mushrooms were referred to as flesh of the gods.
Yeah.
But also reserved for royalty much
Mm-hmm.
of the time. So yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know that about the pharaohs either.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's probably lots more stories from other mythologies, other cultures and stuff that are similar, you know, where people that are in power, you know, if you know where the watering hole is, you know, you if you you know, you might well want to keep that information to yourself. And that's similar with these mushrooms, you know, yeah, people realize that, you know, that people are not going to be very subservient, obedient if they've got their own connection. And I think that's, you know, that's one of the reasons why we've had this propaganda against mushrooms. And, you know, it's all the way down to, you know, the culture that we're from. England is quite a mycophobic country, you know. Still, when you say fungi to most people, they think of pathogens, they think of athlete's foot, they think of death caps, they think of mushrooms that might kill you, you know, despite the fact that there's you know, within the you know, millions, there could be 5 million species or even more potentially fungi, and there's actually very few that are going to cause you any harm. And even the death cap, which will kill you if you eat, you know, half a cap or so, and, you know, don't go out there and try it. I have tasted it and spat it out myself, and it is delicious. I can see why people would die from it. But yeah, always, you know, don't just go out there and do that. But even the death cap, that's very, very small doses. Even though large enough doses, it will destroy your liver. Small enough doses, it gives you a hormetic response, and it helps you to replenish your liver. Yeah, but yeah, I've kind of gone off subject there. Where
no, that's on subject. Yeah, don't try that at home, kids, with the death cap, unless you're with some mycologist expert who can be able to support you with that. But no, it's absolutely fascinating fungi. So I just want to let the Zoom room know that it's we're coming to the time that we're going to let you guys ask some questions, if you'd be willing. Just beforehand, I don't know, Taliesin, we've got some beauties of Ben to show, pictures. Maybe you'd like to show them so the viewers. Ben in his natural habitat.
Yes, I will. Do you want to do the questions first, and I'll prepare them?
Yeah, sure, of course.
Cool.
So is there anyone in the Zoom room who feels that they would like to ask a question? We've got a couple in the comments, but does anyone want to actually speak to Ben? Anyone feeling brave?
Feel free to turn off your microphones. Turn on your microphones, sorry. Feel free to turn on your microphones.
Is that to the viewers? Okay, so all right, well basically someone's they've got a few questions in the chat. So Linda Hall on Facebook is really interested in about Chinese fungi, and I'm just wondering whether you can share anything about that.
You would like to know about Chinese fungi?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not sure if there's any fungi that specifically you know, think of themselves as having a nationality. But so traditional Chinese medicine, I'm just going to guess what the question is there really, but in traditional Chinese medicine, mushrooms are regarded as the highest of all herbs, because of the way that they interact with other herbs. I'm using the word herb loosely there. You know, clearly they're a distinct kingdom from plants anyway. But yeah, because of the way they interact with it, you know, they're very cooperative. And so you've got very, very few counterindications and side effects from mushrooms. Yeah, which is kind of what you would expect from when you know the mushrooms. But yeah, there's the you know, again, thanks to the Chinese, you know, they've been using these mushrooms for a very, very long time. I think they've been cultivating them for thousands of years. You know, the jelly was cultivated probably in China, you know, at least 2,000 years ago. Yeah, there's a huge amount I could say on Chinese mushrooms. But I would like to say that there aren't really Chinese mushrooms. There's mushrooms that grow in China. There's mushrooms that are used in traditional Chinese medicine. But because mushrooms can produce spores and lift off up into, high up into, and be carried off by the wind, they can be carried off to other continents. So they're not good. They don't really adhere to borders. When you can turn yourself into a billion pieces, it's, yeah, you're not going to be able to contain them. You can't classify them, you can't contain them, you can't kill them, thank God.
Okay, we've got a couple more questions coming through. Okay, so this is a big one. You keep saying be humble. If we all took mushrooms, do you think it would change our society politically, i.e. mutual aid / anarchism?
Yeah, I mean, mushrooms are anarchists for sure. I identify as an anarchist. I mean, that's, again, it's what the one of the big lessons of the fungi. There's no one in charge. There's no one in charge in nature. Just like in any organism you look at, there's no one particular organism in charge. We sometimes arrogantly say, probably because it's the the brain actually saying this thing, that the brain's in charge of our bodies, but the brain can't exist without the stomach, without all of the other organisms. So there's nothing in charge. So yeah, I think that if we were to give the politicians and the CEOs, all of these, the super wealthy, the so-called elites, refuse to actually believe that there's anything elite about these people dominating the planet. Yeah, if we were to give them mushrooms and we were to, give it to them in with love, like with the understanding that these people are human beings that have just gone wayward and that have just been repeating some bad habits, and have a bit of understanding about it, to realize that they're not inherently evil, that they can be helped. They're human beings. And yeah, I have hope. The fungi give me a lot of hope that is possible.
Mm-hmm. To develop a non-hierarchical mycelium network within humanity.
Brilliant. I like it. Yeah.
So there's quite a few comments coming through now. When brother or sister, I can't see what can't identify you in the Zoom room, is saying, one thing I always find a shame is people breaking mushrooms to identify them. I know there is a vast network of them, but there must be another way. And yeah, breaking the mushrooms to identify them.
So I think we should stop being so precious. Like, honestly, we should stop being quite so precious, because you're not going to kill the mushrooms. To think that you're going to eradicate a fungus by breaking up the fruiting body, is supremely arrogant. Actually, we are not that powerful. We're not going to destroy the fungi. To think that we could, is kind of madness. And so no, we do have to pick the fruited body. It should be done with some respect. It should be done with some, again, humility. We should go in and say, well, do we know what this is? Do we have any idea what this is? If we can recognize things that are on the red list, the species that are endangered, let's make sure we're not picking those. But yeah, I think this idea that the way that nature thrives is for us to just leave it alone and banish ourselves from it is an unhelpful idea. We have to recognize that we are part of nature. We are nature, and we are not going to we're not going to save it by removing ourselves from it. Like maybe that won't be a choice and we're removed from it against our will, and when we kill ourselves out. But no, I don't think it's a shame that people breaking mushrooms to, do it carefully. If you do with consideration. If you're wanting to learn about mushroom, about the fungal kingdom, and you're investigating, the mushrooms are going to appreciate it. Trust me. Like they want to be understood. They want their message to get out there. So anybody that's coming at it with genuine genuine integrity, no, I have no problem with that at all. And actually, some fruiting bodies, which is what a mushroom is, you know, a sporocarp, they actually they want to be breaken up and taken around, you know, like that's why the truffle makes itself so delightfully smelling, you know, and it's to get it to be dug up by squirrels, pigs, you name it, whatever animals, and then passed on through the feces, you know. So no, I yeah, and we have to remember that it is just the fruiting body. It's just as Terence McKenna said, you know, the well, actually it's the mushrooms told McKenna was that the thing we call the mushroom is the part of the fungi which is which loves sexual thrills and sunbathing. You know, essentially they're there for sexual reproduction and to catch a bit of sun because they're spending the rest of their time in the dark. You know, like you're not going to damage the organism. That is just a fruiting body which is going to pop up and disappear again. You know, so especially if it's already released its gill, if it's already released its spores, sorry, then you know, which many mushrooms are going to already have produce. You know, it's very easy for a mushroom for a mycelial network for the fungi to produce a fruiting body. It just needs water. It's got all the resources it needs. So don't worry about it. Just don't worry about it.
Okay, so there's another quite important question someone has asked. For treatment of trauma and depression, which fungi would you recommend and what dosage do you think is ideal?
For trauma and depression?
Yeah. I mean, are we talking
go no further than the psilocybes for sure. And the dose would depend on the person. It would depend on
what's a microdose and what's, say, a journeying dose?
Generally, it's regarded like what in the research. Generally, it's regarded anything that's less than 0.01%. Sorry, less than 0.1% of a gram. Is regarded as a microdose, but a microdose is anything that's subperceptual. So if you really, you can't quite tell that you're on it, you know, you're really at that stage where you've got the enhanced visual acuity, the enhanced sensitivity, but without you being really aware of it. That's a microdose. But yeah, but I would also say lion's mane. You know, if someone's not prepared to try a psychedelic, if they're not willing to go for the psilocybin, I mean, that is a shame, and it'd be great to get people at least microdosing. But no, lion's mane is incredibly good for the nervous system. It has this amazing ability to support neurogenesis, so the birth of new neurons, and synaptogenesis. So your whole nervous system is getting a boost, you know, and that's where our experience of existence, you know, takes place, is in our nervous system. So lion's mane incredibly valuable for, you know, it has been used to treat depression. Yeah, that in combination with psilocybin. But because we're such a complex creature, you know, there could be many mushrooms that will help with, you know, there's actually honey fungus is also very good for nerve conditions. I mean, cordyceps, because its ability to promote chi, which it literally does at a cellular level, helps you to produce adenosine triphosphate, your cellular form of energy. The more energy you have, you know, the more life force you have. That, you know, that's you know, you could absolutely argue that that's going to help with depression. But so yeah, those will be the first sort of ones to come to mind. Yeah, there is another wild species called the albatrella, which you won't encounter very often, but that also supports neurogenesis. But yeah, if you're living in Sweden or Finland, or you might be able to find that one, and it's not on the red list for sure, and you can collect that one. That one's going to support neurogenesis and I believe synaptogenesis as well. Yeah, good, huge potential for all kinds of mental health issues. We should all be really taking that. I don't know anybody that couldn't do with a little boost to their nervous system.
Yeah, of course.
I certainly take it all the time.
You what? Sorry.
I certainly take it all the time.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Um,
Cordyceps, lion's mane. Well, I take a whole range of mushrooms all the time. The biggest takeaway from the Medicinal Mushroom Conference, which I've been lucky enough to have been attending in this country since it started in 2015, and the biggest takeaway from that conference each year is take more mushrooms, consume more mushrooms. Yeah.
And we like coming just back to psilocybin, which I know is going to interest a lot of people. I mean, yeah, I heard that you're saying that microdosing psilocybin could be great in combination with other neuroregenerating and nervous system balancing mushrooms. But if people felt drawn to take a stronger dose, is there anything that you would recommend for first timers in terms of dosage of stronger, of psilocybin mushrooms?
Dose is kind of a difficult one, because it really depends on your particular disposition. I used to be very I used to be quite evangelical about telling everyone they should do a heroic dose. Terence McKenna's 5 dried grams in silent darkness, which I had incredibly, I had incredibly profound, beautiful experiences from. But yeah, in recent times, I've become a little bit more moderate in that advice, really. That recognizing that, that not everyone's quite as full on as me, maybe, I don't know, but and should maybe start with a microdose, and you can then just gradually increase it as you become aware of its effects and what it's going to do to you, and then you can keep it so that you're feeling safe. That's the beauty of starting with a microdose, and then you get to that place where it's just perceptual, and music's going to be beautiful, and everything's going to be that much more beautiful at that point. And
yeah, I've just got a couple more questions. So there's one that says, where would you find the best training in fungi psilocybin psychotherapeutic approach? I'm not sure if
the best training for using psychedelic mushrooms. Well, there is no official training out there right now. Yeah, it's still one of these fields in general with mycology. It's self-led studies. Often some of the best discoveries, some of the biggest discoveries within mycology are coming from amateur mycologists. People that have not formally studied mycology. People like Paul Stamets. So yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to go out there and learn. You're gonna have to go, read, find the books. I mean, I know someone's asked me about books. I could do that in a moment. Yeah, read books. Find people that you're drawn to. Yeah, there's a lot of research being done right now, and probably the best training you can probably still going to find, I mean, I would say for sure actually is Mesoamerica and these indigenous peoples that have been using these psychedelics for God knows how long, for a very, very long time. Which sort of brings me to a point about the Mycopile book which has come out, that's fantastic. Very happy to see that sort of a mainstream writer is starting to shed a bit of light on this area. But he talks in that book as though psychedelic use and psychedelic research started in the 1950s with Albert Hoffman's synthesizing LSD, and it's like, again, it's kind of Western arrogance to pretend that it started with us. Like, No, that's where that's where the best training is going to be for sure. There's Sam Gandhi, who I met at the Medicinal Mushroom Conference, is working with Psilocybin, with Professor David Nutt and Amanda Fielding. They do, in this country are doing research, and so yeah, you can go and train with these people, and I think that's incredibly important, and it's great that we as I said earlier, bring the intellect along for the ride. We want to bring out the scientific evidence around not just these psychedelics, but yeah, we need to study them more in general. It comes again, I'm sorry, it brings me to another point that I wanted to make about the importance of this subject. One of the reasons why I got so into it was because it's an unsung field of science. The kingdom of fungi is 10 times bigger than the kingdom of plants, for number of species, and yet it's underrepresented by that same value. If there's 10 times more species of fungi than plant, there's probably 100 times more botanists than there are mycologists. And, we need more and more people researching this stuff, and it's not always just going to come through the formal academic routes. We need all sorts of citizen scientists out there researching it. And even from Terence McKenna growing psilocybin mushrooms, it's the citizen scientists which have been pushing this field on. And so go out there and read, and luckily you're in a time now where it is getting a boost. Like 10 years ago when I first started this, it was really much less popular. It's much less regarded than it is now. And I'm so happy to see so many people coming to me and going, oh, I watched Fantastic Fungi and I read Entangled Life with Merlin Sheldrake, and it's really getting into the and the Michael Pollan book as well. It's really getting into our collective consciousness now, and that makes me very happy. And so yeah.
I just feel like I had a sort of download then, possibly from the mushrooms, just saying, become your own teachers.
Yeah. Well, we're all hyphal nodes, like a mycelial network. Like at the tip of each of these branching mycelium. The hyphae. The individual strands of mycelium. And we're like those. We're like the tips of those. All feeding back into the network. And yeah, they're all investigating their environment and signaling back to the rest of the network what they find, and any keys to unlocking nutrients of substrate that they're finding themselves within. And yeah, so right, yeah, we are like that, and we need to empower ourselves. Yeah, I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, that's the message. There's loads of questions here. We've only got a minute left. Probably I'd say, there's a question about what do we do if an area, urban lands, is contaminated and we're advised not to grow veg? Can we forage mushrooms on contaminated land?
No. Don't. Mushrooms are incredibly good. Well, that's one of the reasons. One of the abilities to remediate land is they actually can hyperaccumulate heavy metals and toxins into their fruiting body, which spreads the load. A poison is only a poison. Is only a chemical or a compound in over expression, over concentration. Anything can be a poison. And so what the mushrooms are doing is they're just spreading it all out, and that means that it's in its balance again. But the way they do that is by hyperaccumulating these heavy metals and these toxins in their fruiting bodies. And so yet many a mycologist has slowly poisoned themselves. For instance, with morel mushrooms are very good at hyperaccumulating lead. Actually, there's a picture of some morel mushrooms. We could show that. They're very good at hyperaccumulating lead. And so there was a mycophagist, not that one. The interesting looking, the weird, bizarre. There you go. That's morels. They're very good at hyperaccumulating lead, and so there was an old apple orchard in the United States where a mycophagist, also known as a mushroom forager, a mushroom eater, was consuming these morels, over many years, and for a long time didn't notice any of the effects, but then was taken to hospital with liver failure, and it found out that he had huge amounts of lead in his liver, and worked out that essentially we were someone sprayed this old apple orchard with lead containing herbicides, pesticides, and then the mushrooms, doing their job as they do, took them into their fruiting body and would have spread them out, but instead this guy took the brunt of it, So do not trust mushrooms in anything less than a sort of pristine environment. I mean, there's a lot more that I could talk about with that, and there's always nuances. Another lesson from the mushrooms is that no answer is ultimate.
Yeah, thank you so much. We've come to the end of time, because there's so much to go. You weren't joking. It's just
I was only just getting into my flow. I've missed so much.
Well, I mean, I would definitely love to have you back, because it's just been fascinating, and you're such a fun guy. Hey, I had to get that.
I'll forgive you for that one. Everyone listening, stop saying that to people that love mushrooms. We've heard it enough.
Yeah, someone's saying definitely get back on Nature Talk series. Just quickly before we go, Ben, people want to know more. How do they get in touch with you? How can they follow you? How can they come to your? I mean, are you doing workshops, or what? Tell us quickly. I
do workshops. I like to live as a hunter gatherer, and so I like to do lots of different things in my life. But I will. I'm sure I will put on some more mushroom walks and talks live, and take people into the woods. Of course, that's definitely a part of what I do and what I love to do. You can get in contact. Sorry,
catering as well, isn't it? And
catering, breath work. I like lots of different things. But you can contact me via my email. You can find me on Facebook. You can follow me on Instagram and all that. Blah. That's
come up in the chat for people in the Zoom room. If you want to contact Ben, he's really happy to answer questions. Follow him on Instagram, see his amazing photos, and get
yourself on some of these networks. There's some brilliant networks online on if you're on Facebook. My favorite thing about Facebook is mushroom forums. Like, there's some brilliant forums, beautiful, giving mushroom experts out there that some with far more knowledge than myself that you'll be able to learn from. And get on it, contact me.
Get on it. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ben. Thank you so much to everyone who joined us in the Zoom room. Feel free to contact Ben on the comments on his contact details that we've shown. Also, share this talk, and if you feel drawn to Fellowship of the Trees are also taking donations for our projects at the moment. We've got a few on the go that you can find out about on our website. And all I can say is much love, everyone.
Love.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Blessings.
Thank you so much, Ben.
Thank you.